Now you can listen to Wine and Dine Radio while shopping at the grocery store or your neighborhood wine merchant. Wine and Dine Radio can be heard using your wireless internet on your cell phone. You're listening to iWineRadio. iWineRadio is a production of Food Tastes Better with Wine on the web at iWineRadio.com. Hey guys, I thank you for listening to iWineRadio, and we are still the only wine channel on iTunes Radio. If you go look under iTunes Radio icon and scroll down to News and Talk Directory, and it's listed alphabetically, click on that and the stream comes up immediately. iWineRadio.com, where you can find links to individual guests. And if anyone's interested in advertising or becoming an underwriter or sponsor, please contact us at iWineRadio.com. We really, really appreciate your support. The more support we get, the more conversations I can have with fascinating people around the world, including you. If you have a story to tell that you'd like to share on iWineRadio, go to iWineRadio.com and contact us, and we'll go from there.
Hey, it's Luke Lambert here. I'm a winemaker in the Yarra Valley, and if you'd like to learn more about my wines, you can visit my website, www.lukelambertwines.com.au, where there's a list of importers in the United States, Asia, and Europe.
Today we get to meet a new name. To me, it's a new name in Australian wines that are available in the United States. They're also actually available in a couple countries in Europe and Asia, and he will mention that later. His name is Luke Lambert, and we will have a link up to a cool interview that someone did of him in Australia. His wines are imported by Epicurean Wines based out of Seattle. Epicurean specializes just in Australian wines. Luke Lambert wines are Yarra Valley, Victoria, and Luke is joining us today on a tour. He's talking to us from New York, and we thank you so very much for your time today. And you specialize in Shiraz and Syrah. And let me start by asking you, what you use both terms, Luke Lambert Shiraz Crudo and Luke Lambert Yarra Valley Syrah. Why two different names?
Lynn, hi. Well, it's a sort of complicated answer, I guess. In Australia, obviously everyone knows the traditionally Shiraz, I guess from Barossa and McLaren Vale and stuff. The Yarra Valley is a very different microclimate, and we stylistically are quite different. So generally more medium-bodied and rely on kind of acid spine in wine and savory sort of characters.
Okay.
So I guess the European sort of palate weight and model is more common in Australian, well, big pun, from Yarra Valley in Shiraz.
I never knew
the term
that.
Syrah is kind of, it was initially sort of used by myself and a few people about 10 years ago, and we've kind of stuck with it to kind of differentiate from what other regions were doing with the variety. I guess.
Makes sense. That it's like a branding issue.
Yeah, it's a broad church. The variety, there's lots of diversity within it, and then Australia as a country, there's so much diversity in different microclimates that you could split it into any number of different things. But just from a naming point of view and a kind of starting point, we thought that would be a good idea, and it has caught on. It took a little while, but now if people see the word Syrah, Yarra Valley, they kind of associate it with the style. Okay, now talk to us about the two wines that are being brought into the United States, one labeled Crudo and then one labeled Yarra Valley. Okay. Yeah, they're in fact from the same vineyard, so it's a separate block, and the bottom of the hill is kind of what goes into the Crudo wine. So it's a steep slope, and the soil obviously changes as you walk up the hill, and in fact there's probably only like 50 meters between the bottom of the hill and which is the Crudo wine, and then a bit further up the soil changes, the vines thin out, the cropping level drops dramatically, and the flavor profile in fact sort of stays the same, but the shape of the wine is very different, more concentration and structure, and a bit more muscle, I suppose.
Well, when people think of Australian Shiraz, they think of muscle.
They do, and I think I kind of maintain that you can make elegant wine with finesse and kind of have a layer of muscle and a backbone that can carry, high protein dishes, but it doesn't have to be fruit sweet or full of grunt. You can have. Yes. You can have muscle. I heard a term the other day. It was like male ballerinas. So it's kind of there's a level of kind of finesse and kind of, but also power in some respects. And I think that they're when I first got inspired by wine, they were the wines that I loved to drink. It was wine from Cornas and Barolo. Rustic, savory, but still very elegant. And that's kind of, I guess it's been sort of the direction that I've wanted to take with my wines since I started.
Okay, so I see that obviously you're a young chap and you've created this niche for yourself, but what I'd like to know is how did you get turned on to wine to become a winemaker in the first place?
I'm in fact from Brisbane in Australia, which is traditionally not a wine growing area at all. It's quite warm and tropical, and it's in Queensland, which is like the northeast corner of the country. But my parents were interested in wine, and I guess the kind of wine that they enjoyed to drink wasn't supercharged, fruit sweet wine. It was more medium bodied and savory, and that was just what I got exposed to first, I think. And then as I kind of worked my way through school and was interested in science and constantly being dragged to wineries to visit cellar doors with my parents, which initially was tedious and incredibly boring. And then as you get older, your palate changes, and there was a couple of moments in particular where I just thought, wow, this whole process and this whole industry is actually really magical, and I just kind of fell in love with it pretty quickly, actually.
Wow.
And then, when I left school, I went to Europe and started drinking a bit more widely, I suppose, and kind of discovered the world of wine, and that was it. I never really wanted to do anything else, I suppose.
So your college degree was in science?
Yeah, I did a wine science course in Australia. Started in 2000, I guess. And that was important. I think it's kind of the way wine making is taught has changed a bit in recent times. But back then it was kind of, the focus was a lot safer, I guess. The style of wine that you were taught how to make and told was practical and possible was actually, in hindsight, really safe. And then, I left and I was a little bit disillusioned about what I learned in the previous 3 years. I came away with some cool chemistry and met some good people and drank some lovely wine, but I kind of feel like my real education happened in working in Italy and with some cool people in Australia who actually, who made and viewed wine in a very different way, and then that was hands-off and kind of creative, and it was about sourcing unique, interesting vineyards and just letting them sing, kind of thing.
And the song includes wild yeast, wild malolactic bacteria, no fining, no filtration. I
think it's essential, yeah. I think for wines that, if you want to make wine that has kind of life in it and layers of complexity and that can give you the wow factor, the best wines in the world are made that way, and it just sort of made sense to me. And anecdotally, I've seen it, firsthand lots of times. You can do the trial in the winery, which I have done over and over again, and you can manipulate wine and try and force it in a direction, and it never quite works out. It's a natural process. It's like it's a food that's alive, kind of thing. And the more you interfere with it, you just send yourself backwards. So I don't actually view, having gone through all that, I don't actually view winemaking as a science at all. I think growing grapes is a science. I think vine physiology is extraordinary, and it's kind of, for me, that's kind of where I spend 90% of my mental energy. But once we pick, I really don't make too many decisions until you decide if it's red wine, when it's going to be pressed, and that's really it. And that kind of requires a level of experience and confidence, I suppose. But I sort of maintain that it's the best way to do it.
Well, you pick your fruit. So do you have long-term contracts with growers, or do you own your own vineyard?
No, I lease 3 vineyards across the Yarra Valley, and not so much contracts. I do stuff by handshakes, and I'm very lucky to be associated with some people who, they love to grow grapes, and they're as passionate and crazy about wine as I am, and we kind of work together and just sort of get it done. And that's obviously essential. One day, hopefully, in the not too distant future, I'll be able to grow my own fruit and have my own farm. But when you start off, I guess with nothing,
right.
I didn't come to it with millions of dollars or anything like that. It's sort of the only way that it can be done. But interestingly, and I'm kind of biased, but the Yarra Valley has got a number of people who are in the same position as me. They've kind of arrived to the wine thing just with, just wanting to do it, basically, and nothing else. We didn't have much cash when we started, and people, you put people in a situation where they don't have many resources to start with, and they get creative about what they do, and they just kind of follow, what they think is right. Then we're not beholden to inheriting a bunch of ideas from parents or by like an appellation system that kind of controls what we do. We're free to make our own mistakes and kind of push forward. So it's exciting, the Yarra Valley in particular, but Australia as a whole is the whole thing is very dynamic at the moment, I think.
Can I ask you also, I think, and I may be wrong in this, because I don't interview that many Australian winemakers these days, but are you unique in the fact that you're using 27-year-old large format oak barrel to be aging your Luke Lambert Yarra Valley Syrah instead of something that's, new? So you explain to us that, because I think that's probably a lot of the stamp of the taste and aroma of your wine.
I think that's probably right. I mean, the wine's it's about terroir. Everyone says that about their wine, but what you see in my wine is the vineyard, and I kind of, because I make lighter style wine, I don't really like the term, but just for sake of trying to explain it, if I was using anything near new oak or third, fourth use barriques, then the contribution that even good high quality French oak would be making would be sacrificing the perfume and the earthiness of what I get naturally from the vineyard. Yeah. I kind of and I guess it was just the function of what I enjoyed when I was first getting into wine, and that was wine that just looked like vineyard. It wasn't anything. It had nothing to do with the winemakers. It was just kind of Vineyard-to-Bottle, and that was it. So I just philosophically, I don't subscribe to barrique. I don't subscribe to new oak, and I think that I personally make better wine because I have very old barrels that are just storage vessels. They're not there to contribute on any other level aside from gently maturing wine until I decide it's ready to bottle.
I think it is, and I love your attitude coming from New World. So real quick now, what countries are your wines available in? United States?
Yeah, nationwide in the States with Epicurean, Singapore, the UK, Japan, and Norway.
Luke Lambert, thank you so very much for joining us today on Wine and Dine.
Thank you, Lynn. That was lovely. It was my pleasure.
We will have links up for you to learn more, and the wines are imported in the United States by Epicurean Wines. You're listening to Wine and Dine. Now you can listen to Wine and Dine Radio while shopping at the grocery store or your neighborhood wine merchant. Wine and Dine Radio can be heard using your wireless internet on your cell phone. You're listening to iWineRadio. iWineRadio is a production of Food Tastes Better with Wine on the web at iWineRadio.com. Hey guys, I thank you for listening to iWineRadio, and we are still the only wine channel on iTunes Radio. If you go look under iTunes radio icon and scroll down to News and Talk Directory, and it's listed alphabetically, click on that and the stream comes up immediately. iWineRadio.com, where you can find links to individual guests. And if anyone's interested in advertising or becoming an underwriter or sponsor, please contact us at iWineRadio.com. We really, really appreciate your support. The more support we get, the more conversations I can have with fascinating people around the world. including you. If you have a story to tell that you'd like to share on iWine Radio, go to iWineRadio.com and contact us, and we'll go from there.